Hi, welcome to Tech Beyond Tender podcast. I'm your host, Meena Satishkumar. Today is a very special episode for us as we have our first guest from Northern Hemisphere, and it is Vicky Twomey-Lee, a true community powerhouse from Ireland with nearly 2 decades of experience championing diversity in tech. She's the founder of PyLadies Dublin, a mentor and an organizer of countless inclusive tech events across Europe. Vicky, a EuroPython Society Fellow and a recipient of the PSF Community Service Award, recognitions that reflect her incredible contributions to the Python and wider tech community. Get ready to be inspired by her journey of advocacy, mentorship, and impact. Thank you for joining us, Vicky. It's very nice to have you with us.
Thank you for having me, Meena. Yeah, it's definitely I didn't expect to have, this conversation. Is I know we're quite connected, but normally, I'm also people are wondering we are like really big long time zone apart. So as you say, well, I'm in the Northern Hemisphere, so I am based in Dublin, Ireland. So it's great to speak to you all the way down under.
Yeah. And we our communications have just been on LinkedIn by messaging. And this is the first time I'm actually seeing you virtually. You've been in the tech community for like 20 years now. Can you just talk to us a little bit about what drew you into tech? What was your childhood like? Where did you grow up? And what really sparked your interest in tech?
So I'm born and raised in Ireland, down and from the south, from Limerick, the Midwest there, and I suppose I got into tech, I think more or less because of my dad. I remember when I was 3 or 4, and my father was a restaurateur. He was not around anymore. So we used to live above a restaurant like any other Chinese or Asian kind of a family back then. And in the middle of the night, I don't know what time, I know it was dark, and all I saw was this green glow and this clickety clack of keyboards, and I see this green glow on his face. So, and he really is into tech back then, so that was a long time ago. And he would be buying computers for for the business for the restaurant, but ultimately I think he likes tinkering with technology. I think as I grew up, he always included me going to like PC fairs, I suppose, because computer fairs. Um, and then he brought back our very first games console from Hong Kong because my parents are originally from Hong Kong, and my father would come back with presents and this amazing present in 1984. What is Nintendo Red and White Famicom, and that introduced me into the whole kind of era of games. But as I grew up, as I said, he brought me to a lot of these kind of kind of computer events that comes to our town. And then he'll talk to me about computers, and we start building computers. And as I got older, he let me build the machines and look after machines, and we'll talk a lot about um, the latest tech at the time, which is fantastic. It was just very normal. We just chat, just had a good fun chatting. And then yeah, as I got into university, I kind of went a roundabout route. I didn't mean to go to study computer systems in our local university down in Limerick. I actually was into graphic design, and I got into I did actually get into the Limerick College of Art and Design, but my parents, because I was the eldest in the family, um, didn't want me to go to art college, wanted me to go to university. I know it's very stereotypical of Asian families or Chinese Asian families, and so I ended up I went to study computer systems, and then from that I got my job, first job up here in Dublin. So I didn't venture too far. So I ended up in Dublin, but in the meantime, so to show my age, I graduated in 99. So during my college days, the internet just barely just started in those times because my father actually brought in when I was still at home. My father brought in a telephone line for me so I can access the internet. But of course, there's a timer because it's so expensive to go on the internet. So I get to play around. I was just interested about coding, so created like many people first, seeing the internet, we start creating our own web pages with HTML, CSS, and then I start talking to people remotely as well, to other geeks. Um, and then yeah, that progressed from there. And I think from a long way around my journey of interest in graphic design, I ended up like just learning about graphic design along the way, just where I can. And then I just moved more into the coding side. So the creative side of me kind of was more of a side thing, like a hobby interest thing. But it all came together. Now I do, I've been running events, since it's kind of a one person show most of the time, and you don't have anyone to help you with graphics for your social media and stuff or your event pages. So I basically quickly learned to do all that stuff. So it's kind of like a long journey. Um, but in the end, all these kind of skills I picked up I think was due to, I suppose my dad gave me that curiosity. And as I got older, I learned that my mom was more of a maker as well. She likes she actually was, she knows things about, she knows how to solder. She said, "Oh, do you know some of the old satellites up there back in Hong Kong when we were manufacturing factories? I was soldering with those those kind of um, boards that goes into those space satellites and things like that. She's good at sewing as well, seamstress, and all these kind of creativity that I learned from her. And I realized that I like doing all this stuff. It's like I love creativity. I also love art. So I think I was very lucky that when I was going to school, I was able to do art, physics, and applied maths, which to me I realized that was actually creative technology before creative technology was a thing. And I just assumed that yes, I get to do a lot of arts and crafts, and also I get to, have fun learning about, stuff in applied maths as well. And I didn't realize that was always building a foundation to my curiosity and how I view things throughout my education and career.
Wow. So you graduated in 1999, and what was
Yeah,
your first job?
it was localization in Sun Microsystems up here in Dublin. So that was I was very lucky to end up in a amazing job, met a lot of amazing friends, had a lot of great times. So it was and yeah, we managed to um uh I managed to kind of weather the storm of the 2000s .com kind of,
Hmm.
when it burst and things like that. So I've seen a lot of things, kind of ups and downs, the highs and the lows. And I think I've been very privileged to be able to see a lot of that. And privileged to, have ended up with a great community of people as well along the way.
So in early days, in early 2000s, when you first started off in Irish tech, how was the tech scene like? How was it
There was
back then?
there was hardly a tech scene. I was I think I'd done a bit of not a huge amount of research, but as part of one of my previous contracting roles, connecting the community um um to a company I was working for, was to find out kind of questions you have. What was it like back in the early 2000s? There was hardly anything. It was literally you find out about events through a mailing list called the Irish Linux User Group mailing list. It's still there. It's just it's very quiet right now. This is way before an events. You don't find out, there's no Eventbrite, there's no meetup, so people have to understand that it is by word of mouth. I do love my colleagues at the time, but you want to learn about what other people are doing in other companies as well. So maybe once a year, when I was working Sun, there might be an event, or twice a year there might be an event in some other company. I'll jump at it, and I may not understand some of the stuff that they're doing, but it was sometimes, you think, which is great because you want to learn about something you don't understand,
Mm.
as well as talking to your peers about things you do know and share that knowledge. So yeah, there wasn't that many things happening unless you're on a mailing list or you just happen to catch word of mouth from someone that this event is happening. So there's no kind of widespread, kind of a list of meetups collated, that's easy to find nowadays, or mostly easy to find nowadays. So yeah, as I think if you go a few years after that, like maybe mid 2000s, there's kind of a handful of user groups. So you can count them. I think so. I say half a dozen. I say the Irish Linux user group would be one of them, of course. I think Tog Hackerspace has been running events. Python Ireland has just started around the mid 2000s as well. I think Ruby Ireland started the same time as us. Um, but yeah, there's only a handful at that stage. I can't remember the rest of the other groups, but you definitely can count them. Like you can count them in the two hands. So it was a it was starting to get starting to get a lot of technical meetups, which is quite exciting. Because you get to meet your peers and talk about different things.
So, how was the community back then with regards to women and gender diverse professionals in the sector?
I think at that stage I was happy that for me, I went to Python R meetups. So I was just happy that people were talking about Python, to be honest. I like I already tried to bring friends along and things like that, but I wasn't thinking about seeing people like myself because I was so comfortable in an environment where it was mostly guys. But we do have female engineers as well. But at that stage, when Sun went through layoffs, we did lose a lot of people. The teams got halved and things like that, and I took over various different roles. So it was even a lot less women at that stage in where I worked in my team. Um, but I wasn't thinking of that. I wasn't thinking about the technology because it was very exciting to talk about someone besides, my then boyfriend, now husband. It was just us two talking about Python excitedly, and we used to work together. So, but we wanted to talk to other people. So, um, but yeah, it's only many many years later. It's only after I ran they start taking up running the events that I actually realize I get really even more excited when I see someone who is a female walking through the doors joining the meetup for the evening, and I get so excited I go over and talk to them, and half the time I'm wondering I hope I'm not scaring them away because they don't come back the following month or the following meetups, and then I'm by myself again. So I think at that stage my head was still quite far in the sand, and I just said it is what it is. The group is quite small at the time, and we're so excited to talk about this technology. So I wasn't thinking about it until quite a number of years later that it is a problem.
So, why Python? What excites you about Python?
I suppose it was quite a new-ish language, even though it's about the same age. Or I don't want to be controversial about this, but it is about the same age as Java. And I was working for a company that created Java. Um, and so for us internally, we were trying to figure out ways to improve the processes. As coders, we are quite lazy. We like to streamline and make things nicer and cleaner and tappity tap things work, and build. So we were building the Solaris, operating system, kind of localization packages, and it was a lot of hodgepodge scripts and stuff. So at the time with Python, we thought we might use that to create a build system. So we kind of did that ourselves to see how it works, and it was amazing. It was really nice and easy to read the code. It does what it says on the tin. We wrote it. It was easy to maintain. Um, and I think it was just an easy language. It was a nice language to pick up. Prior to that, I actually did a course in Perl, which I literally was 2 days after I did the course. There was a certificate lying on my desk. Um, but when I picked up Python, that certificate got slowly was gathering dust. It was just I just never looked back. And when I start meeting the other people in the Python community, because it was quite we were very new at the time.
Mhm.
Um, they were so nice and welcoming and so accepting, and I think I just stuck with Python. And yeah, it was and again, as I said, it was a language that you can do a lot of things, a tool that you can do a lot of things with. Um, and it helped, and it did, and even now, I think I start using it to at the time. No, not now, but back then, um, I kind of moved on to take up other kind of roles like building patches and stuff, and was using Python to build the patches for Solaris, and basically, we were backporting a lot of things and supporting previous versions. And then I think now I'm pretty sure that, last time I talked to a friend, like a long time ago, used to work in Patch team there, they were using Python as well, because we were the only team that were using it. And I think after a while it kind of spread because it's just very useful and it's open source as well. So it's a great thing about it. But the people are very nice as well at the time, but we can talk about it if you have more questions about the Python community. Um,
Yeah, it's like, say, for instance, if there's someone who's not really done anything in Python in their 30s or 40s who want to start exploring Python, where do they start?
um, Definitely start at python.org. The Because that's where you could download Python, learn about Python as well. Also, there's information about the community. Um, and then they have information about kind of the events that are happening. I think the best way to do it is if you're not comfortable with technology, starting off by yourself, there's all the tutorials out there. People say that, but I think the best way is to find a local community, talk, join in and talk to the people there. It doesn't because the communities now it's very welcome to people who are new as well, and they might start talking about advanced topics and during their events, but um, but you can go in as a beginner or new to it and ask those questions. Like the ones you asked, where do I start? Because I can give pointers, but very different to other people giving pointers as well. Different, resources or where to go. So certainly, I think one way there's a lot of information online, but go to python.org
Mhm.
because that's where you can, it's centralized all the information about Python itself. It's the official site. But to find out more kind of how people use Python, it would be great to go and check out the local communities. And if there's someone in person, if there's some in person, even better, because you can ask a lot more questions in a social context as opposed to, I suppose, listening to talks online.
Mm. So, would you trust a Python code that comes through ChatGPT or Claude?
Do you want me to go into the whole? Are you trying to ask me if which side of Gen AI I'm on?
No, it's just a
It's a
general
polite way of
question.
asking it. Um, if it's a small script, yeah, why not? Like, it's okay. People are using it to assist. But I suppose in a way, I have to be very wary of large amount of code generated by any of the kind of tools out there. Um, as I said, assisting is fine, but when Gen AI, when tools like Copilot and stuff came out um, a few years ago, for me, alarm bells rang. It was more, um, it's not just the quality, it's the origins back then. But people are so excited about the possibilities, they forget about maybe maybe I was the only one in the room in tinfoil hat or something, or really too safe. But I will, whenever I ask these questions, no one has actually given me an answer. As in, say for instance, the origin at the time, like this is a few years ago. I know there's companies now that will help have services to help find the origins of the code and will highlight them, because at the end of the day, as techies, when they write code, we're not very good at software licenses and things like that. And when you start building a company or working for a company and you're implementing solutions and writing code, you never know when a company might get audited because they're selling or getting acquired or just getting audited. And especially if a company is being acquired, the provenance of where that code comes from, it might be a sticking point if that code is owned by another company and you didn't know about it because it was just randomly generated, and where there's these or it's not random, as in it's generated by these tools who are trained on the models are trained on data gathered from all the GitHub repositories or wherever they're getting all the data from. So you don't know, the quality and the provenance of it. So that's my main concern was that, even though I wasn't working for companies at the time, but I was genuinely with alarm bells ringing around that because people didn't. I know we were careless about software licenses, but this is even bigger, and you're pulling from large amount of like you're generating a large amount of data, and you don't know where it's coming from. You're just blindly just pushing that into your into your own repo at work, and that gets, and then it's just used. So I think that was just for me was one. And am I concerned about the quality of the code? Yes, but I don't have to worry too much about that because I'm not working in the industry. I'm not working with other people. I'm kind of doing my own thing. But I do, when I talk to people, a lot of the senior developers are concerned about the quality, but the time spent having to go through when they peer review code. The time spent for you to go through that, you could have, written the code yourself. That's why I keep hearing people. By the time I go through it, I could have just written it. Most of them were curious at the beginning, but they said it's just not working. And yeah, and then you just hear stories from the industry, stories from the tech news industries where, now you have, Copilot, logging bugs and for you and things like that, and generating a lot more work. Like everyone is very time poor as well. So I think um I think people are leaning too much to the very shiny side of what the possibility, but then the impact kind of fr kind of push that away, and we'll look at that later. And I'm just more worried about the impact, the software craftsmanship skills that you build up over time. Things that you learn by making those mistakes, but you don't learn as many mistakes if you're using a lot of these tools as well that assisting you, or not assisting you, just writing it out and just putting it out there, and then letting your peers do the peer review. And then there has happened that people have asked, like, where did that come from? I don't know. It was generated. Why is that there? I don't know. It was generated by insert your tool there. So you're losing the knowledge and the craftsmanship that builds you up as a developer or an engineer, I suppose. And yeah, so in the critical thinking side of things, that gets lost along the way because your belief that the tool will just, will produce the right code. It works. It hasn't caused any errors until later on. You don't know when it comes up. How do you debug that as well? Especially, when there's a lot of complex systems that are being written, or existing complex systems that you're contributing code to. And and I don't think I think people have to be careful in it. But so, yeah, I would say with caution. If you know what you're doing, if you know how to, if you have a lot of knowledge already, use with caution. For those new into it, use to assist, but don't just create the code and just and then submit it and say, I just solved an issue on the issue tracker. That's the solution. To just submit it blindly. It's because it didn't fail any tests. It should be okay. But and you don't know what kind of code you're submitting. I think that's the danger.
So you're a EuroPython Society Fellow and also PSF Community Service Award recipient. So what do these recognitions mean to you?
Well, I'm also a PSF fellow as well, so that was actually my first nomination. Um, by the way, all these kind of fellowships and community service awards is still a complete surprise. I still don't understand how I ended up with these nominations at the time and how I received these awards. Because there's so many super other people, that definitely should get these awards. So the initial one that I got, the PSF Fellow I mentioned, was I got that back in I think 2012 or something, and that was at the time when I was I've been running Python Ireland for a long time, and I was chairing PyCon Ireland, the Irish Python conference, and it was just a very surprised because it was I have to understand that nowadays there's a lot of Python conferences or PyCons around the world. But back when we started, so Python Ireland started back in 2004, rebooted in 2005, and mid 2005 is where I took over running the events. So I had to step back a little bit just to pull back a little bit on how the origins was. And we were very, very excited. As I said, I loved talking to people about Python at the time, along with my husband, now husband, then boyfriend. And we were and then it's very typical. We norm most of our meetups are in Irish pubs. So sitting around a tiny computer in a dark Irish pub was not ideal when we have even I think we had like a core 6, but we might have up to 12. Just trying to look at this tiny screen and get excited about the Python technology and what it was used for. People say, why don't we just find a room with a projector, and we can do our give our talks and everyone will be more comfortable. And everyone thought it was a sound idea, but no one put their hand up to do it. So I said, how hard could it be? Let me do it. And at this stage, there wasn't that many, as I said, there wasn't that many meetups around the mid 2000s. So I took that and ran with it actually for about 11 years. So I finally passed the baton to 11 years later. During that period, I said I did, I chaired the first for Python Ireland conference, PyCon Ireland. So when we submitted our conference to the PSF for a PSF grant at the time, the Python Software Foundation grant, because we had no clue what we were doing. The year prior, EuroPython was in Birmingham and they were looking for a next host city. So myself and a few, um, my other half and a few other folks from the core Python Ireland group were in Birmingham. And when they heard that, I can just see everyone look at me from the Irish crowd was looking at me because they thought we should host EuroPython. So we had a good old chat. Um, I think that was 2009, 2010. Um, I was the only, I actually kind of say that this story is true because everyone else was drunk at the time. We were in another Irish pub, talking about should we host EuroPython? So a whole core of us, and I managed to convince the other folks that we should run that I agree with them, and we talked about that we should run a local one, local national conference, build up that expertise because we have no clue about how to run a big conference. We have no sponsors. We have no idea how to do call for speakers. And the largest meetup attendance that we ever had was like 20 something people. And that was like an amazing turnout back then. Um, the one amazing talk. So we decided, we'll have the conference a few months later in July and nearly 100 people turned up for it, which is fantastic. And that was our first PyCon Ireland. So when we submitted our grant to the Python Software Foundation, at the time there wasn't that many PyCons around the world. It was the PyCon US, was the original one, the big one. You have EuroPython, and then you have folks from France, Germany, Sweden. Can't remember. And APAC. APAC was just one big one. So literally, it was like half a dozen, maybe, PyCons around the world, and suddenly Ireland popped up. So we had the chair of the Python Software Foundation drop over to our first conference. I was like, who are you? Like, what are you doing? And just checking the community out. And he was helping us with backpacking. And he was Steve Holden was his name. And I said, do you have any tips? Because it's our first time running this. I said, oh, you get it right by the seventh one. And I nearly panicked and ran out of the room. So, but it was really good. We got a lot of international speakers and stuff just because we were one of there wasn't that many conferences, and we were very lucky at the right time when we ran this. And uh and that's where I first time meeting Steve Holden. And then I for me, when I was running these events, I said, oh, what can I do? How can I do better? And since I was seeing how EuroPython was run, they had, well, to me, big was big. Then it was like, oh my God, they have 250 people turning up. How can we reach that number? But how did they organize this? So a lot of our stuff is based on the PyCon UK back then and how they run the community and how they run the events. And that's also where I met a lot of the core dev folks as well in those earlier days. And I was basically asking the person behind EuroPython, the logistics and how you operate, especially when their EuroPython is a conference that moves around different cities. How do you manage that? And they were doing remote calls, video calls, running because there's people from different countries helping out. And so I joined in and asked, can I just join and see how you do things? And that's how I met, Mark Andre, who was the one who put in the nomination for me for PSF Fellow, and Steve was the one who supported that nomination. And kind of, yeah, I thought I was dreaming. I said, "Oh my God." All I was doing was finding more people like myself at the time who love Python to come together, and finding more speakers, and we're attracting, lots of international speakers. And to me, it was amazing, because Ireland is so small. A lot of things happen in UK, Europe, elsewhere, but Ireland, we don't really get many international things like this, especially Python is relatively close to new, and not many people kind of really heard of it. But since we ran PyCon, it grew. It grew from attendance went from 150 to 250 to whatever the max. I'm not going to say the number. Whatever the max of fire health and safety hotel allowed in the room in the plenary sessions. So I think it peaked like you can only fit like up to 500 or something. So it was seeing that grow. That meant the Python Ireland user group grew as well as we attracted more people. But as I said, when you asked me early on about, female developers in the early days, I saw as PyCon Ireland drew more people to the conference, especially when they opened up different tracks, like open because by 2011, 2012, I was asking those questions. Um, I did try to convince my colleagues when I moved to a different company to go to these events. They don't want to go to. I think some people just want to just leave work or techie stuff. When they finish, that's it, which is fine. But for me, I said, but why? Tech is fun and amazing. Talk to other people. This is not work. This is like talking about fun things. On a subject matter with other like-minded people. Plus, I was running at that stage. I was running the monthly meetups, so I was meeting a lot of people, meeting a lot of speakers. Um, but I did notice that there was not many people like myself at that stage. I was feeling a bit annoyed, kind of saying, "Why is this happening?" So I went to I attend another meetup called Irish Girl Geek Dinners at the time, And I asked the organizer in one of the meetups, I said, can I use this to ask a question? I'm not promoting the conference. I just want to know, with this conference as an example, or insert whatever tech conferences, that people hear about, why aren't they turning up to them? And apparently it was messaging at the end of the day. A lot of them saying, oh, I'm not a coder. I'm not a Python person. I'm not experienced enough. And I'm trying to convince them, say, you don't, like, what are you doing? Oh, I do this, I do that. I said, but you're coding, you're programming in Python. If you go to these events, you see how other people are using it, or you meet your peers like yourself doing what you're doing, you're part in the industry. Um, I just couldn't convince anyone because they keep saying, I'm not a programmer, I'm not a coder, I'm not a techie, I'm not a techie. I think there was a whole stigma attached to what a techie is. And I think that's why there was a big draw to folks to kind of female friendly events, um, because they feel that they're safer to going to those than a more general tech meetups. And it's still the same, sort of mostly nowadays. Um, so by the fourth year of PyCon Ireland, it was my final year as chair because I was burning out at that stage. In 2013 was my final year. I managed to get our very first keynote technical speaker, and she came all the way from San Francisco. And one thing is, we did really try to reach out to people around Ireland, but for some reason, everyone is super, super shy and don't want, and felt that they shouldn't be the keynote speaker or something like this. And it's a lot of excuses. Um, but Lynn Root is her name, came over from San Francisco, and she's also just so happens to be a co-founder of PyLadies San Francisco. And I thought it was a sign that I should launch PyLadies Dublin. So that's when PyLadies Dublin launched, was during my last year as chair of PyCon Ireland. I launched PyLadies Dublin. Um, and when I was talking to that community, like for people who don't know, but tech meetups, like it hasn't really changed in many, many years. It's still normally two or three long talks. And in the middle of that, there's normally beer and pizza. And then after that, people go to a pub. For us, people go to a pub. um, and when I was talking to the PyLadies Dublin, kind of, it's the first PyLadies Dublin meetup, I suppose, a gathering. It was like a half a dozen of us. And they said they wanted, I said, what do you want? Do you want like a regular meetup, like Python Ireland? Um, but, or do you want something different? And they said they want something more hands-on. They want to roll up their sleeves, want to do something more coding and things like that. They don't mind it, but don't want to focus around beer and pizza as well, or going to the pub. So kind of so their emphasis is very different to a normal tech meetup. And I want to create a space for people that they can give talks as well. Um, so I've been trying to encourage people to give short talks. Like right up to now, I've been saying give a lightning talk, don't give a long talk. If you want to deep dive, if people want to deep dive in your topic after your talk, you can do we have a kind of a breakout sessions afterwards. Like it's free form. You can work on your own code, ask for help, talk to the speaker afterwards, about their talk topic, um, or general, chit chat. You don't have to bring a laptop, but it's encouraged because it's an opportunity where you have a couple hours or an hour and a half in the evening surrounded by Python, people who love Python, and you have that atmosphere that's buzzing. And you can just work on it. Whereas instead of at home, you make dinner, watch a bit of TV, then you say you do the dishes, and then, oh, I need to do this, that, and the other. And by the time you say, oh, I need to go to bed now, and then you do this and you realize, oh, it's been a few weeks and I did not do that coding thing I said I was going to do. Whereas this is an opportunity for people where there's a space and there are people from the industry there, those that are stuck in something, you can put up your hand. And so yeah, so I'm trying to create this space where people can come in, ask for help if they are first time speakers, come to our meetup where I kept it small for a reason. Whereas meetup has, like Python Ireland, when I said it, We got a lot more people attending, especially, females as well. But that means since Pike, we went from max, 20 something people for an awesome talk to it went, the highest I ever hosted was over 100 people, which is huge. So imagine if you are new to Python, which is one of your early questions as well, where do I start? I say go to your local meetup. And you go to a very popular one, just so happen to be a very, very popular large group, your largest group in your area, and say, so for us in Ireland, it's Python Ireland, you go in and you are a wall of people. How do you how do you actually go in and talk to folks? So when I was running it back then, I because I was running it so regularly, I noticed the new faces because I see all the regulars and stuff like that. And I do try to go over and reach out and say hello because I'm a host. And I'll bring them over to a group of people and force that. Nowadays, people say this Pac-Man approach, right? You open up when you join a group, leave a open space so another person can join. But there was none of this back then. So what I do, I went in and I pretty much opened up that space and I say, hey, talk to, because people know me at the time because I was running it. So I go in and say, hey, how is everyone? Oh, I want to bring this person in, you know. So so it was getting, I see that was getting quite big and it was quite daunting, even for guys who's been in an industry for over 15 years, but they were new to the technology. They're saying, oh, I don't know. I don't know how, like I'm terrified of talking or giving a talk, or I said, but you're in the industry for a long time. But say, yeah, like I'm so new to Python, I'm terrified here. And I say, if a guy feels terrified after over a decade of experience, how do you feel if someone who's completely new coming into a group? So I think PyLadies, I kept it small because of that reason. I wanted to fit in a large meeting room where people come in. If if you're making tea or coffee or just standing around, at least it's a small group. You're comfortable to go in and say hello. How are you? What are you doing? Do this. The icebreaker moments are easier that way. For people to mingle. Other awards as well, like the EuroPython Society Fellow award. Um, Again, that was a surprise. I didn't expect that. They launched it recently. I was one of the first recipients, but as I said, I went and joined the board way before when they had this fellowship awards. But just because, as I said, I mentioned I was curious on how they ran things, and it was so different. It was like so formalized, and I was like, basically, I was being mentored, um, along the way and seeing how all these people, and I was bringing those experiences back and how I can do things better over here. It's not everyone's cup of tea. I don't particularly like admin in operations, but it needs to be done. But also, I was also sort of curious on how they did it, how they ran successful big conferences. Nowadays, EuroPython, when I said back then in Birmingham they had 250, nowadays they have over, like they can have 2,300 people plus 2,000 plus in their it's a huge conference now. And then, as I said, Python Learner has grew tremendously, like double to what I thought it was huge conference back then. They can easily hit 500, 400 or 500. And then we now have PyCons, lots and lots of PyCons around the world. There's so many of them as well. Um, so it was very unexpected getting the EuroPython Society Fellow Award. I joined out of curiosity to figure out to learn how they ran operations and administration, how they dealt with sponsors, dealt with their guests and speakers and so on, and how they dealt with the programming in the team. Um, and then after a while, I just like helped out. I kind of joined as as they invited me as a board member, but I stepped back because, I didn't have as much time. But after like over years, I kind of helped out every so often where I can. So maybe they might need help to review talks or something like that, or help out reaching out to sponsors, or all little operation stuffs in the background. I'll jump in and help where I can. And in most recently, I've been helping out with um, I'm on the code of conduct team. And then I'm also on the financial aid team because those are two areas which I definitely was very curious about back then. But now, now after many years, I want to be able to improve and have that, positive impact from, having these in place as well. And from this, knowing from how these things are set up in an international kind of conference, bringing that experience back to more kind of Irish kind of run events and sharing that with the Irish tech organizers, community organizers, was what I wanted to do as well because um, there were a lot of problems back then, but it wasn't, people didn't know about it. So this was way before when code of conduct was a thing. So introducing that was interesting. Um, and financial aid, it was hard because a lot of grassroots communities who run conferences, um, you know, or struggle to just to, pay the basics when you run a conference. And financial aid for is another additional expense to help people from underserved and underrepresented communities to attend these events. So those for me, I wanted to bring that experience back and share that with the rest of the Irish tech community here who are running events and conferences. And because there was a lot of talk about how do I implement code of conduct? How do I get more women into our events? How to, there's a lot of these conversations. And and I thought like just staying here running stuff in Ireland, it's like an echo chamber and it's quite isolated. So I thought reaching out internationally, seeing how people are done things, and people mistakes. There's like there can be mistakes and stuff, but you get to learn from failures as well and mistakes made and how people deal with it. It's all learning. So for me, it was that for me was how carved out for me and in when it comes to community outreach and continuing on what I'm doing, volunteering and giving back to the community. I learned a lot from the Python folks. They were open arms, answered a lot of questions. Um, so besides community, of course, they're very welcoming. If you ask anything about tech, they're happy to talk to you about it and answer your questions as well. So but I was very focused on the community aspect of it and the operations behind running events and bringing people together. And and then when people become friends, and that's when I see people becoming friends, and the opportunities that come out of that. It was amazing. But then I realized there was a whole cohort of people that didn't get that opportunity. And the cohort are the women in tech, or the people who can't afford to go to these events, because they lose all those opportunities of making those connections that becomes longtime friends that can give you, oh, hey, I hear there's a job coming up that you might be great for because you have given that talk, remember, if you know a couple of meetups ago or that conference. But if people don't get that opportunity to go to these meetups to make those connections, give those talks, get that platform to give those talks, that you might represent your company or yourself or going to big conferences, you can't build up that portfolio. Um, you know, so that's what I'm trying to do. Have that platform where people can come along, give their talks. I encourage them to do it. That's why short lightning talks, which is harder for people who are seasoned speakers because they can talk for half an hour, no problem. But tell them to give a talk in 10 minutes is it's a challenge. But for a new speaker, that seems like a long time. Um, but yeah, those awards and nominations, I really appreciate it because for me, I still think I'm not any different to anyone running all these meetups and conferences. Um, but it's those connections that I made. I was very, again, privileged. I was at the right place at the right time. And I talked to the people, and I just happened to talk to the right people as well. So it's an element of where you are at the time, and I want to give that opportunity to have people to be at the right place at the right time. You know, it's not just all just based on luck. We also have to put in the work, put yourself out there as well. There has been, as I said, there has been kind of tough times when you're trying to introduce something new at the time. Like I said, the code of conduct, people at the time were saying dismissive of it. you know, and saying just people be nice to each other. Say, well, it doesn't work that way because you don't know. And when you have the majority of people who are not like yourselves, don't understand why you're trying to create the safe space, there's a lot of work to do to convince them, but also um, having the support of my husband and my friends that I made in Python Ireland over time. There's some close friends. They looked out for me. I burnt out really badly and they tried to get me to quit a few times, but I was very stubborn, but they were there to support me. Um, but I thought that was really important to keep going, to poke at the folks who didn't don't to come to these events that I got a lot of opportunities from. And look, my husband, he comes to a lot of events as well back when I was running them, and he got a lot of different jobs, changed jobs because he met a lot of these people. So I said, so so we can't so it is a you put yourself out there, but
Mm.
but it has to be a space you feel comfortable in, and I'm trying to do that with PyLadies and my other initiatives as well.
Nice. So, what changes have you seen in the last decade since you've
Um,
started PyLadies? Have you seen an increase in gender representation in the conferences?
I think what I think is it's not because of PyLadies. So when PyLadies, I do promote Python Ireland and PyCon Ireland, and I'll do that in my welcome in kind of whenever they come to events, and I post as well, on social media. I try to tell people about it when I see them if they're interested in Python. I say, oh, you should go to this conference, you go to this the larger meetups. Um, but I think I think when data came around, data jobs came around, a lot more people getting into that, and because the tools used for data, the community around the tools um, was very active. And when there was and you have a lot of conferences around like Python and data, it kind of brought a lot more especially the track that was added to PyCon Ireland in the later years. I saw there was an increase in female kind of attendance, which is quite exciting, as well. It's a good mix of folks. And I think that's why organizers like myself and other folks who run conference and events trying to have think about other topics, think about ways to attract people. Why are people going to your events and conferences? But I think PyLadies for me, I always think that we are also we're a safe space that people can come to, and you can help other once, especially when you find your journey and your career, um, and you notice that other people are also kind of was in the same spot as you a few years before, trying to figure out your way. You know, I will, I can encourage them to kind of come back and tell their story or share the cool tech things that they're doing with Python. But also, I make sure that people know about these other tech events, like Python and its adjacent technologies, as saying like, if you feel like, you're happy to come to our events now. Now you know how what it's like. Now the other groups are just like us, but bigger. Don't be afraid. Go to them. Go give your talks at those events as well. So I think it's a long process because at the end of the day, everyone is very time poor, and I think the COVID really kind of really hit that as well. As in a lot of groups went away. But prior to that, yeah, it is very slow progress. And I think with a lot more people getting into data, I think that was a big increase of women in the industry coming to these conferences, and researchers as well, from colleges and things. And I think colleges should really work hard, not just place the onus on the students and the student societies, but the staff themselves, the colleges, they really should pay attention to these tech conferences and, and encourage the students to go, not the other way around. We have a lot of excited students who basically, bring their own clubs and their own society or clubs. They will arrange themselves to go to a conference, but they'll ask about, student tickets or things like that, or financial aid. But I think everyone has to give a helping hand to encourage people to go to these tech events and not just leave it to, because there are still people who've never heard of Meetup right up to now, or they've never heard of Python Meetup, or they never heard of PyLadies, and no matter how much we're sharing the information out there, it's still not reaching to some people. And I think maybe companies should as well, if they're using the Python as part of their stack, should promote, all these tech events are upcoming and things. But then it's always down to an individual or
Mm.
individuals. So there's a lot of work still to be done. It's slow. It's a slow burner trying to bring people, but over the years it has been an increase, and I'm so happy to see so many people, and some of those become volunteers, which is fantastic, you know, but it's still small. It's getting better. It's better than what it was when I started. That's all I could say. But for me, I didn't think about these issues until like 2005. So it was like a number of years later before I realized, yeah, I think I like to see my peers like myself to come to these events. And not, and but you have still have a lot of questions and anxiety from people from minority groups, or underserved and underrepresented groups still have this anxiety of I'm not good enough, or I'm not, as a programmer, I'm not a techie. That's a very big thing. I'm not a techie. Why should I go to this event? Um, it's getting better.
Mm.
But I would like to see it, you know, so there's room for improvement, so it's good and bad.
So now to some rapid fire questions. What's the one piece of tech you cannot live without? A phone.
My work phone. What do you think what do you think what
I
did you
thought it
think?
was going to be Python, the tech.
Um yeah, it was well, I suppose if you say the one thing, right? For me, I think um that was the one tech wouldn't be able to live without, is my work phone. Like, Python is a tool. I love it to bits. It's been with me for many, many years. It's given me the community, gives me, like, I can write things very quickly, things like that. But at the end of the day, that is one part of my life. Whereas I do a lot of different things as well. And I think if I don't have my smartphone, I'd be lost. Not because I can't, I still remember my family's phone numbers, and especially my husband's and stuff, but it's because I do a lot of my work on the go on my phone, when I'm not at the machine here, at my computer. So that is one thing I can't live without, I think, for a number of years. So it's not just doom scrolling and stuff. It is
Mm.
also it also is my workhorse. It is, my emails, my, all the docs, especially right now when I'm helping with another conference, I keep an eye on issues and things like that. So yeah, I'm very kind of, the device is kind
Nice.
of is very part of me right now.
So what would you tell your younger self just starting out in tech?
I will say, thing I tell people, and then I realize this is what I should tell myself as well, is don't be afraid to ask questions if you don't understand something. Don't be afraid. It is totally okay. We all start off somewhere,
Mm.
and uh, and you won't believe where you'll be in 2025. I was always say, because back then I was, as I said, I wasn't allowed to do graphic design. I ended up in computer systems. I chose that. Well, I didn't have much choice. I also wasn't allowed to leave Limerick. I left that part. I was the only girl in the family. I was the eldest, so my parents would not let me leave Limerick. There's only an IT college and a university, and courses were a lot less than what folks have right now. So I didn't have much choice except that I saw computer systems which had graphics in there. That was all the way up in third year.
Mm.
Um, so so yeah, it was I was still trying to figure out my way, and going through that course was hard. I saw a lot of things where I realized that if I ask questions, I'll be assumed as weak, or not knowledgeable. Um, is like asking a knight in shining armor to come and rescue me because majority of the course was guys. I was we started off over 200 people, I think. I can't remember numbers now. Keep changing. Say 170. Just say 170. And we finished with about seven girls in the class and when we graduated. And a couple of
Wow.
those are crossover courses as well, you know. So I didn't ask any questions. It started in first year. I saw you know, the peers, the guys weren't treating the females right, saying that they're stupid and things like that. And I didn't want to be. At that stage, I'm trying first year in college. You're still trying to get out of your secondary school kind of, mindset and switching to college. It's so many new things, and you don't want to be assumed to be stupid, which, so it was. So I just went through college not seeking help from my peers, because it was hard going, really hard going. I did there was like no such thing as study groups and things like that. I didn't even know it was a thing because I was so isolating myself from being hurt from the peers because I had in hindsight, I did not have a very good class. So I said, because the class before me was much better. They supported each other. They were competitive, but they supported each other. This one, there are quite a lot of toxic males back then. I'm sure they're
Oh,
all
I'm
good right now,
surprised. I'm surprised you didn't mention the gender discrimination or the gender parity or representation until 2005, despite going through having this experience right from your university time.
but when 2005 though, but I've only just been in an industry for a few years, and I was having a time of my life,
Mm,
enjoying myself as a young adult, meeting new friends. As I said, Sun was amazing. It
mm,
was like the best job I ever had. I still one of the best jobs I ever had. Met a lot of, the experience was one of the most fantastic experience I ever had, and I was really enjoying myself.
mm,
But when I started running these events, it was a tech event, and I just said, "Oh, it is what it isn't. It is what it is."
mm. So,
Until 2011, 2012, and I go, it's not right. What is going on? There's something eating me inside saying, why am I again doing all this? Why am I attending all this, having a lot of fun, learning all these things, but others are not
mm,
doing this? And that's where, PyLadies Dublin came about. And I said, I have my other initiative is Coding Grace, which founded by my husband and my other friend Andrea in New Zealand. And we were discussing about all this, about girls in coding clubs and women in tech and what can we do to have an impact to get more people who are interested in tech, give them the skills or mentoring. What can we do to help? What kind of impact? As I said, it was kind of it is what it is for quite a while for me. I was like my head in the sand, very deep until I just couldn't ignore the problem anymore because
mm,
I see people missing out on these things. And I want to talk to people like myself,
mm,
you know? And there was no one to talk to. The guys were fine, but it was there was a lot of people missing from that. And also I was helping my kind of other freelancers at the time. I was helping in the careers fair, helping them representing the tech community, connecting with the tech community. I was running one of the years. I was running the Python Ireland stand, and everyone kept coming up. It was years ago, like, and they came up and kept handing us CVs. I said, "No, we're a community user group," and they didn't know what a community user group was. They didn't know what Python Ireland was. They didn't know Meetup. They haven't heard of Meetup.
mm,
That was the first time I heard that people didn't hear of Meetup, but even now, people still haven't heard of Meetup. Um, but yeah, there was just such there was a black hole of knowledge there.
mm,
Um, but yeah, it was as you say, I don't know why I didn't think of I think I tried really well, I think I tried really hard in when I tried to get my female colleagues to go to Python on meetups. When after like we only do it once a month. Okay, once a month is quite a lot. But I did ask them for over 6 months, so 6 times to go to these meetups. And they said, "Oh, I'm going to hip hop lessons. I'm doing art." Or finally, they said, "Oh, I'm washing my hair." And I said, "Okay, I'll stop asking." Obviously, people they're not interested, and that was a company where I actually had a lot of female devs in the team, which is very rare. But they had no interest in going to meetups, which I thought was really weird. Or maybe they thought I was really weird. I don't know. I thought it was rather normal to go to tech meetups, because I had so much fun at the time, or I still do have fun. Um, but yeah, I don't know why it took me so long.
So, what excites you for future in tech? What is your next plan? What's your next project?
So my next project is actually not really Python related. Well, future project. I also run game jams as well. This is not enough that I do other stuff. As I said, I love creative technology. I like to bring arts crafts. I also was the maker advocate for the Double Maker Festival and Double Maker team a few years ago. So I have like the maker hat, the games, creative tech. What I really wanted to do was for years now is be able to get people to um, uh, create an alternative game controller. This is inspired by Games Developer Conference. They're based in San Francisco. They have this fringe event called Control Alt GDC, where you have all these independent game developers making games, but they have silly contraptions that go along with their games. So one of the older ones I kept laughing about was someone would be in a sleeping bag scurrying around like a worm, like playing the game, or things like that. And you have similar conferences or similar events in Berlin. Berlin has lots of cool conferences, and in UK as well, but not much here in Ireland. And I want to do something similar here in Ireland. That's one of the projects that I've been trying to get up and going, but it's such a niche, small area. Trying to lower the barrier to entry. Just in Python was like, lowering the barrier to entry for coding is one thing, but lowering the barrier to entry for something like this is another thing altogether because, people say, oh, I don't make games. I'm not a games maker. Oh, I don't know soldering. I'm not an electronics person. I don't know coding. There's so many things, so many elements in there. So it's a challenge where we're trying to lower the barrier entry to we first of all workshops and how we can make it easy for people to create game controllers where we provide a kit or something like that, or maybe teach people soldering and working with the local hacker space and things like that. I would love to do that. Um, Being able to, but I did find out a bunch of people over in the west of Ireland, Galway, a few indie game developers are interested in this area as well, and we're hopefully, this year didn't quite work out, but I'm hoping to plan that we can do something together where we can produce an output, we can do an exhibition, and have that at say, a local game dev kind of conference, or a public event where a lot of people come and play games and buy retro games and stuff, but we can have an exhibition and the public can see this like silly contraption where you can play an independently made with your independently made games as well. So for me, like all this combination of, art, crafts, the making stuff, which I never talked about because that'll be probably another hour. And then Python, my experience from the Python community all kind of comes together. Um, and I'm very I just want to see how this goes. It's probably one of my projects in mind. But yes, I also have I'll be continuing on doing PyLadies Dublin. That's an ongoing project, building up a team. We had a new member just got on board as well, helping out is fantastic. Mentioned Coding Grace as well. We're trying to figure out how to help people, but we noticed that I've been helping a lot of people who are early career or new into technology. But since COVID, we noticed that there's a lot of people in the senior kind of roles who, in Ireland anyway, because I focus a lot of this stuff in Ireland for Coding Grace, is a lot of people moved out of Dublin and working remotely, but they're very isolated and they don't go to a lot of events and meetups, or they don't have a lot of events and meetups. So we're figuring out how to connect and make a meaningful event for all these senior folks who also are very time poor because some of them also may have families as well. And yeah, so there's a couple of things in the
Wow.
works, but there are ongoing stuff. But yeah, this year has been quite busy. I'll be pulling out from a few things from what I'm doing this year. Like I might step back a little bit from EuroPython. This year was helping, as I said, I meant helping out with their financial aid and code of conduct. But I might step back from that for a bit, so concentrate stuff more in Ireland again. But again, bringing that experience from what I learned back to how we can improve things here. And there's a new kind of a tech community, grassroots community organizer group just started up as well. It started off from folks up in Northern Ireland, in Belfast. They have an amazing tech community up there. And I kind of not snuck in. I just said, "Oh my God, I didn't know your group is there. Can I join?" So because we have been trying to start up like a whole, it's like an AA meeting for organizers. We have our ups and downs. How do we figure out problems, or how do we improve things? How to, share experiences, share resources and things. So things have we've done that over the years, but this one looks more serious, which is fantastic. So we can see how we can make a better impact in the Irish and Northern Irish tech communities. So I'm still full trying to give back, especially locally here, to try and improve things and trying to encourage more diversity and more inclusive events as much as possible. Um, yeah.
Truly inspiring, Vicky. You have lots to say, and you are just absolutely amazing with the number of projects that you're involved in and your contribution to the tech scene in Ireland. I really wish you could clone yourself and place them in other countries as well.
Oh, thank you so much. I wish I could as well. See, five of me in this room. Like, actually, you didn't know that. They're all over there.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining. Any final thoughts to our listeners?
Um, I think just back to what would I say to my younger self? It is totally okay if you don't understand something. Go and ask those questions. We all start from somewhere.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. Thanks for your time, Vicky.
Thank you so much for having me.